And merrily we roll along with part 3, which is going to be section 48. And so let's light into it. Our introduction here is the first version, once again, is found in Revelation Book 1 in the handwriting of John Whitmer. Now we know why, because he was appointed to this very purpose. So thank you, John, for your great penmanship. This is termed the 49th commandment, which comes before section 47, but, it's okay. So a little out of order here, but we're going to do it in the chronological order they were received. And there's a lot of interesting insertions of parentheses in this section, which I find fun, is that there's little sort of parenthetical markings that are put in later on. So those are the major changes to the document that you'll see here, is just these parenthetical phrases and markings that are put in. It is chapter 51 in the Book of Commandments, and it is section 63 in the Doctrine and Covenants, 1835 version. And for this, we actually do not have any section heading change between 1981 and 2013. So with the exception of taking away the reference to the history of the church, the wording is the same. Versions of this can also be found in the Evening and Morning Star, in the manuscript history of the church, and in John Whitmer's history. So a little bit about how much we have here. So it's kind of nice. We're starting to get more and more versions of these that we can compare and contrast with each other. And a lot of the Joseph Smith Papers editorials will make notes of like, oh, hey, there was a comma here or there, or a period, or maybe a parenthetical phrase or a change or something like that. Those are all noted because of these various versions that we get. Circumstantially to this, Revelation Book 1 says this: 49th Commandment, March 10, 1831, a revelation received at Kirtland, Geauga County, Ohio, concerning the brethren in New York, how to manage with their property, etc. We don't get much from Doctrine and Covenants and Book of Commandments. Again, just kind of a simple revelation received here and when, and maybe to who, and that's about it. But the manuscript history gives us this: March 10, 1831, Thursday. Upon inquiry how the brethren should act in regard to purchasing lands to settle upon, and where they should finally make a permanent location, I received the following revelation, given at Kirtland, March 1831, to Joseph Smith, Jr. John Whitmer's history, says this: the time drew near for the brethren from the state of New York to arrive at Kirtland, Ohio, and some had supposed that it was the place of gathering, even the place of the New Jerusalem spoken of in the Book of Mormon, according to the visions and revelations received in the last days. There was no preparation made for the reception of the saints from the east. The bishop being anxious to know something concerning the matter, therefore the Lord spake unto Joseph Smith, Jr., as follows: thus saith the Lord, and then you get the revelation. This is a lot more of a practical matter. So again, you've got Edward Partridge has been called to be the bishop, and there's a bunch of people moving here, and what do we do with all these people, and where do they live, and how do we do that? And that's what this revelation sort of dictates out, and kind of sets up the bishop as the one that is going to be the one coordinating all of this. And he had counselors, and he had a committee that helped him out. But that's what this revelation is all about. So we get this from the Historical Introduction to Documents, Volume 1. It says, the immediate context for both this revelation and key parts of the 9 February revelation a month earlier was the anticipated arrival of more than 100 church members from New York. In response to a question from Ohio believers, quote, what preparations shall we make for our brethren from the east, and when and how, unquote. The 9 February revelation stated that individuals should be appointed to assist the bishop in obtaining places for the New York believers, and advised that members cluster together in every church organized in as close bodies as they can be. Joseph Smith also requested that New York church member Martin Harris aid in the efforts to organize the settlement, telling Harris in a 22nd February letter, quote, it is necessary for you to come here as soon as you can in order to choose a place which may be best adapted to the circumstances of yourself and brethren in the East to settle on, unquote. By the 10th of March, Harris had not yet arrived, and according to John Whitmer, there had been no preparation made for the reception of the saints, making Edward Partridge, quote, anxious to know something, unquote, about how places were to be obtained for the anticipated newcomers. Whitmer further explained that another purpose for the revelation was to provide clarification because, quote, some had supposed that it, Ohio, was the place of gathering, even the place of the New Jerusalem spoken of in the Book of Mormon, according to the visions and revelations received in the last days, unquote. So there's a bit of a crisis going on here. They all went, and they were all very faithful about it. And if you recall, a couple of episodes ago, we talked about how not everybody was on board with this. But then the zeal came and everybody left. And Edward Partridge, particularly, got to have a horse and bridle for his 600-acre land. It's quite remarkable. Or was it 400 acres? But it was quite remarkable the amount of sacrifices financially that they made to get there. And then there was really no preparations made. So I can understand that the bishop is kind of like freaking out right now, and maybe some others are as well. Not a whole lot. Again, it's kind of a short, again, as you can see, kind of fits on one page. Not a whole lot of footnotes for this one, but there is some text from the Revelation that's interesting here. It says, inside of the section, in time you may be enabled to purchase lands for an inheritance, even the city. The place is not yet to be revealed, but after your brethren come from the east, there are to be certain men to be appointed, and to them it shall be given to know the place, as to them it shall be revealed. So footnote 2 for this. In June 1831, a revelation directed more than 24 elders to accompany Joseph Smith to Missouri, where they were told the precise location for, quote, the city, or Zion, would be revealed. From fall 1830, it was known that Zion was to be built somewhere near Missouri's western border. And later on, we are told that that is what we now call Independence, Missouri. And that is the center spot, and still to this day, the headquarters of the Community of Christ, or what used to be called the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And there's a temple there that they have built, and so this is definitely a very special place. There's, I believe, some other religions there that also hold Joseph Smith as in regard as a prophet that also occupy that place. So it's a very, very special location to the Latter-day Saint movement. We're not really getting into it in too much detail until those sections arrive, but you can already see that there's already kind of a nudging of like, yes, Ohio, but this isn't what's called the center place. This isn't the center place of Zion. It is still a stake of Zion. And we still use that term to this day in the church. So that's all that we have. Those 3 sections, kind of short parts, if that's okay with you. And yeah, in our next sections, we're going to be doing in about another week. We're going to be diving more into section 50 and beyond, but we're going to be getting into a lot more detailed records from now on that John Whitmer's God is calling, he's got his revelation, he's going to move ahead with it. So for now, this is all we have in this little set. No letters, no other things going on. Again, thank you so much for listening in, for joining in. And if you have any comments or questions, let us know. And a little birdie also told me that there may also be some exciting things coming. It is now May 2025. Some exciting announcements coming perhaps a little later on. So I'm going to be crossing my fingers for that. Not sure what it is yet, but got some insight into that because of this podcast. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing, and have a great week. This is the Amateur Historian signing off.